Hey all, it's Fox. I want to talk about Matthew Roberts, the author of Initiated, UAP, Dreams, Depression, Delusions, Shadow People, Psychosis, Sleep Paralysis, and Pandemics. His book is fresh off the presses, published just last year. Here's the kicker. Roberts was part of the battle group that captured the now infamous Go Fast and Gimbal footage. You know, the footage that resulted in the New York Times article entitled Glowing Auras and Black Money, the Pentagon's Mysterious U.F.O program. He was a US Naval service member stationed on board the USS Theodore Roosevelt at the time. For the record, to say Roberts is an experiencer is an understatement. His experience with the phenomena is nothing short of profound, and he leaves little off the table in the telling of his story. But before we explore this foxhole, I want to thank everyone who has subscribed. I'm having a blast putting these videos together, and it wouldn't be near as fun without you. Thank you. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. We talk about all the stranger things this world has to offer, from the UFO phenomena to cutting-edge tech. I truly believe that the truth is stranger than fiction, so I seek out the strange, because odds are, that's where the truth is. But moving on. First, some background concerning the provenance of this video. Roberts is a fellow Redditor. I had posted my most recent video concerning Dr. Eric W. Davis in one of the more popular UFO Reddits, and I was pleased when it attracted some decent attention. It was my first video of the year after taking a break over December and a chunk of January. It had attracted some great discussion as well. Roberts was one of the Redditors who responded. I try to respond to every comment. I figure, if people take the time to engage, acknowledging that effort is the right thing to do. Or, at a minimum, I need to throw them some karma. Roberts' response admittedly left me a little confused. It had a lot to do with consciousness, a subject I struggle with. But he had invested a lot of time in his response, and I was not going to ignore it simply because I was confused. I responded as such. I think I am a more nuts and bolts believer at this time. I do agree that the phenomena has been with us the whole time, and that it most likely influenced religious scripture and beliefs. I can't wrap my head around the role consciousness plays in it though. I don't think I know enough about consciousness to begin with. There is a video in my future where I address this topic, but as of now, I struggle with finding the right words. Shortly after posting this, Roberts lit up my private chat box with the following. If you want to do a video on consciousness, I wrote a book about what happened to me. It's called Initiated by Matthew Roberts. It will explain everything. I took the hint the universe was giving me and immediately agreed and dove in head first. I'm grateful I took the course of action I did, because this is not just another abduction experience book. In his book, his experiences with the phenomena kinda takes a backseat to a broader story of tackling depression, fear, expanding one's consciousness, and undergoing a profound transformation. Roberts does detail numerous encounters with the others, or progenitors as he refers to them. But while he tells his story, he weaves Jungian psychology, Spinoza's philosophy, Christian theology, and mythology, among other ideas, all together. He demonstrates that all these ideas complement each other and are in fact telling a very similar, if not identical, story about personal transformation. Robert's story, at a high level, is a surprisingly familiar one. He led a life as an atheist, a down-to-earth military man who had a strictly materialist view on life, who, after a severe life-threatening medical emergency, came to question his beliefs. It's after this life-threatening event that Roberts begins to become aware of his encounters with the progenitors, and his encounters escalate in both terrifying and wonderful ways. Roberts' earliest encounters with the progenitors left him feeling violated, depressed, terrified, and questioning his own sanity. But as he gained more insight into their visits, he began to experience them much differently. Consider this passage from his book. The four of us floated out the side door from the kitchen. In the driveway was a football-shaped craft that lit up as we exited the house. The two red-suited beings flew quickly into the square opening in the craft. The gray-suited being took me to the end of the driveway. I have only a vague memory of sitting with them on the craft having pleasant conversation. I remember the inside of the craft being a brilliant white. Two of the beings were seated in front of me around a small table. The third had his back to us. I assumed he was steering the craft. They were so friendly, and I was so happy to be with them. The next memory I have is being dropped off back at the kitchen side door. I was standing at the door watching as the craft left. The door was open and 2 of them were waving at me from the open door as they said, "Goodbye, friend." This is only a summary of one encounter Roberts had. Interestingly enough, there are hints in his book that the beings Roberts encounters have not only been interacting with him, but his entire family lineage, going back generations. Although Roberts does not say it explicitly in his book, the phenomenon known as synchronicity takes center stage in his story several times. For instance, while wondering if there was a local branch of MUFON in his vicinity that he could approach for some answers to his predicament, the following happens. While contemplating the rest of my life on this long drive back to DC, I was cut off by the small hatchback that had zoomed up on my left side and pulled closely in front of me. On the back window was a giant graphic. It read, "MUFON Maryland, find us on Facebook." Roberts follows the clues the universe presents him, and through his awareness answers not only some of the deepest questions he has about his own experience, but also about the human condition. Fair warning, Roberts references several other works from a myriad of writers spanning thousands of years. I believe, to truly understand Roberts' message, you will want to read these other books as well. I know the next book I'll be spending my precious time on is The Kybalion, and I also know I will be spending more time with Roberts' book as well. The message I received while reading his book is that all things are conscious, and our consciousness is but a sliver of a universal consciousness, or in other terms, God. We cannot know the phenomena without understanding the role consciousness plays in it. The message is also that we are all on the same journey, a journey that forces us to face fear and death and to come out the other side a changed person, wiser and with a greater understanding of all things, not just the phenomena. In closing, if there was one thing I wanted you to know about Matthew Roberts, it's what he has to say at the beginning of his book. I wrote this book out of my unconditional love for mankind, to be etched in the timeline of the human experience as a testament to a brutally painful truth, to the difficult journey we all must take, to the beauty of what we must become, and to the strength and resiliency of the human race. We all have value. We will all have a role to play in our journey homeward toward the stars. Thank you for listening. If you like my work, please hit that like button and consider subscribing. And remember, this ride is not without risk. Be careful out there, and take care.